Welcome to the Heritage webinar. This is quite a complex topic and is therefore quite a long webinar. We have time-stamped each section of the webinar so you can easily skip to those parts of the presentation that might be of more interest to you. I do encourage you to watch both the introduction and context and the end slide, however, as this is relevant to all topics within this webinar. The talking points for this webinar are: firstly, a bit of an introduction to what heritage is and the context in which it sits within both legislation and council's obligations, but also in terms of Napier's heritage and what we have that makes us unique and special. I'll then take you through the various types of heritage that we manage through either the district plan or regulatory processes like resource consents. I'll provide some information about the expert assessments we have commissioned, and then I'll provide you with some information about historic heritage items and groups and historic heritage areas. I'll then briefly discuss notable trees, archaeology, and sites of significance to Māori, and I'll tell you a little bit about the Art Deco design guide. Finally, I'll share how you can find out more information about heritage, how you can speak with us, and how you can make a submission. So historic heritage is defined in the Resource Management Act as those natural and physical resources that contribute to an understanding and appreciation of New Zealand's history and cultures, deriving from any of the following qualities: archaeological, architectural, cultural, historic, scientific, technological, and includes historic sites, structures, places, and areas, and archaeological sites, and sites of significance to Māori, including waihi tapu, and surroundings associated with the natural and physical resources. Historic heritage is a Section 6 matter of national importance. What this means is that in achieving the purpose of the Act, all persons exercising functions and powers under it in relation to managing the use, development, and protection of natural and physical resources shall recognise and provide for the protection of historic heritage from inappropriate subdivision, use, and development. If you're local or familiar with Napier, you'll be all too aware of what makes our city unique and special. Our heritage buildings, landscapes, and other features give us a sense of place and identity and ground us in our past, connecting us to our stories and the people who went before us. In Napier, the rebuild following the devastating 1931 earthquake, Hawke's Bay earthquake, resulted in an incredibly cohesive architectural city, influenced not only by the architecture of the New World, but also by the challenges of materials shortages, and in a number of cases, Māori design. Our Art Deco heritage is recognised across the world and is what attracts many thousands of visitors to our city each year. But our heritage isn't restricted to Art Deco. Napier is also rich in heritage from before Pākehā set foot in Aotearoa, New Zealand, and its heritage is found in some of Napier's earliest homes, its colonial relics, its industrial heart, its landscapes and trees, and in the more modern buildings and structures that are recognised for their importance today. The district plan review has enabled us to think more broadly about our heritage and to protect the many layers of what makes us unique in the world. There are a number of types of heritage. Our built heritage includes buildings and other structures such as statues, walls, fountains, and the like. The significance may lie within these as individual items, but also as groups of buildings or structures where there is a common historical connection between items. Whole areas can also be recognised as heritage. Archaeology is often unseen as it can lie under the ground surface or is hard to recognise without a trained eye. But archaeology can also be a building or structure. Provided it is physical evidence of human occupation prior to 1900, then it meets the definition of archaeology. Trees can also be considered heritage if they are associated with a historic event or person, or even if they are just cherished for their age. And finally, sites of significance to Māori are included in the definition of historical heritage, and their significance may be for historical reasons. I'll delve into each type of heritage throughout this webinar. Although councils are required to manage historic heritage under the RMA, small councils in particular often have to rely on the expertise of specialists to inform their decision-making. This is particularly so when reviewing a district plan. Undertaking research and assessments to identify heritage and provide recommendations for the protection and management is a job for the specialists. When reviewing the heritage sections of the Operative District Plan, Council engaged experts to undertake 3 pieces of work. The first was the heritage items and group assessment. This was carried out by local heritage expert Elizabeth Pashif and Wellington-based conservation architect Chris Cochrane. The report includes research material on each item or group, as well as a recommendation on whether the item or group should be listed as significant or outstanding. Those items with a significant recommendation have been listed as Group B, while those with an outstanding recommendation have been listed as Group A. The report has been split up into individual group reports for each item or group and can be found in the supporting documents area of the District Plan Review page on our website. The Historic Heritage Areas report was prepared by local heritage expert Elizabeth Pashif and local heritage architect Anne Galloway. The report details the areas that have been identified as having significant heritage values and includes all the research findings and a summary of those elements of the built environment that contribute to these heritage values. The report has been divided into the 9 heritage areas and can be found in the supporting documents area of the District Plan Review page on our website. The final heritage-related work that was commissioned was from Salmon Reed, a heritage architecture firm based in Auckland. This report was to supplement a report prepared by Salmon Reed Architects approximately 20 years ago, titled Napier Central Heritage Study, which was commissioned for the previous District Plan Review. As the findings of that report were still relevant, the supplementary report prepared in 2021 for this District Plan Review provided additional information on how to sensitively incorporate new buildings within a heritage context. This document can be found in the supporting documents area of the District Plan Review page on our website. The Operative District Plan includes 188 identified items or groups in Schedule 13. These are divided into 2 groups depending on the level of significance of these items. Following the work undertaken by our heritage experts, 51 additional items or groups were added. As there is already a high level of protection for Art Deco era buildings in Napier, the additional heritage items or groups primarily represent heritage from other periods of time. Again, all heritage items or groups have been divided into 2 groups, now called Group A and Group B, which reflect their level of significance. Rules relating to heritage have immediate legal effect. This means that a resource consent may be required under the proposed district plan, and if this is the case, the planner will consider whether to apply more weight to the provisions of the proposed district plan or the operative district plan. They will consider this on a case-by-case basis. Turning to what the new rules for historic heritage or groups in the proposed district plan these are very similar to the operative district plan. The main difference is that the demolition or relocation of a Group A building or items is now a non-compliant activity. This is the most restrictive activity status before being prohibitive and generally not anticipated by the district plan. In summary, repair and maintenance activities are generally permitted for both Group A and B. Internal alterations for Group B are permitted, but require resource consent for Group A. And resource consent is required for both Group A and B for external alterations. resource consent is also required for the demolition or relocation of either Group A or B heritage. The Operative District Plan has 9 historic heritage areas, including the city centre. The Operative District Plan has a varied approach to the management of these areas, with 3 of these being treated as zones and with quite stringent rules for protection, and the other areas being treated as overlays with minimal protection, with the exception of demolition or relocation. This has resulted in the loss of heritage and the inconsistent approach, presenting challenges when assessing resource consents for heritage. Under the National Planning Standards, the proposed district plan treats historic heritage areas as either overlays, those are ones with an underlying zone, or precincts, which also have an underlying zoning. Although each historic heritage area is different, there is consistency with the way in which they are managed. Council has introduced the concept of contributory and non-contributory sites. Contributory sites are those that demonstrate consistency with the heritage values identified for the areas. Non-contributory sites are inconsistent with these identified heritage values. Therefore, contributory and non-contributory sites are managed differently. The heritage report that informed this part of the proposed district plan was prepared by Elizabeth Bashif and Anne Galloway. The assessment identified 9 historic heritage areas, and those are detailed in the supporting documents part of the district plan review area of our website. The 10th heritage area is the Napier City Heritage Precinct. As the provisions relate to historic heritage, the rules in the proposed district plan have immediate legal effect. The next few slides show the extent of the historic heritage areas identified in the proposed district plan. The pink shaded properties identify those that are contributory. The triangle symbol identified properties that contain individually listed heritage items. The location of the historic heritage areas were largely based on those in the Operative District Plan, but their extent has either been shrunk or, in a couple of cases, slightly enlarged. Here we have the areas for the Harbour Reserve and the Coronation Street heritage areas. These next 2 areas are for the Mariwa post-war and the Mariwa State Housing historic areas. Here we have the Napier South and the Tram Shelter historic areas. And the Te Awa Bungalow historic area and the Iron Pot historic area. And these are the West Quay historic area and the Napier City Heritage Precinct. This table sets out the new management approaches for 3 of the historic heritage areas. The Mariwa Art Deco character zone is now called the Mariwa Post-War Historic Heritage Overlay. The Mariwa State Housing character zone is now called the Mariwa State Housing Historic Heritage Overlay. The Te Awa Bungalow character zone is now called the Te Awa Bungalow Historic Heritage Overlay. As zones, the Operative District Plan provided rules for a complete set of land use activities, as well as rules for activities such as alterations to buildings, new buildings, and the demolition of buildings. The proposed district plan is more focused on those activities that can impact on the heritage values of the area and include rules relating to alterations and additions, new buildings, demolition or relocation of buildings, and placement of accessory buildings. There are also standards relating to fence height, placement and height of structures on the site, and minimum lot sizes. This table sets out the new management approaches for a further 4 historic heritage areas. The Harding Road character area is now called the Harbour Reserve Historic Heritage Overlay. The Coronation Street character area is now called the Coronation Street Historic Heritage Overlay. The Battery Road character area is now called the Tram Shelter Historic Heritage Overlay, and the Napier South Historic Heritage Overlay is a completely new heritage area. For the three Ahuriri located heritage areas, the operative district plan only provides protection from demolition and/or relocation. But the proposed district plan establishes new rules relating to alterations and additions, new buildings, demolition or relocation of buildings, and placement of accessory buildings. There are also standards relating to fence height, placement and height of structures on the site, and minimum lot sizes. The West Quay waterfront zone is now called the West Quay Waterfront Precinct and has an underlying zone of mixed use. In the operative district plan, the zone establishes all the activities that can occur within the area, not just those relating to its heritage values. Demolition, relocation, or alterations all require resource consent. Under the proposed district plan, the management of heritage has a similar approach to the other heritage areas, but the chapter also includes some place-based provisions that differentiate this area from the rest of the mixed-use zone. The Iron Pot character area is now called the Iron Pot Historic Heritage Overlay. Like many Ahuriri located heritage areas, the operative district plan only provides protection against demolition or relocation. The proposed district plan establishes new rules relating to alterations and additions, new buildings, demolition or relocation of buildings, and the placement of accessory buildings. Provisions are more enabling than other heritage areas, with small-scale alterations and partial demolition permitted. The Art Deco quarter is now called the Napier City Heritage Precinct. In the operative district plan, the rules in the Art Deco quarter are only related to signage. The proposed district plan introduces new provisions restricting exterior paint colours. It also introduces resource consent requirements for the demolition of buildings and for new buildings, as well as standalone car parking areas. Finally, the signage provisions have also been strengthened to ensure new signage is appropriate within this heritage precinct. Trees can also be considered part of heritage. Trees can be significant for many reasons, including historic, their prominence within the landscape or streetscape, or their botanical rarity. They may have been associated with a prominent figure or in recognition of a significant event. Both the operative and proposed district plans both identify and protect notable trees on council-owned land only. The operative district plan protects 30 notable trees. The proposed district plan protects 69 notable trees. These were identified through a comprehensive review of trees in Napier. Notable tree candidates were assessed using an internationally recognised assessment method called STEM, S-T-E-M, or Standard Tree Evaluation Method. Trees are assessed against criteria including their condition, stature and visibility, their age, or whether they have a historical association or commemorative purpose, and their scientific rarity and endangered status. The team set a threshold of 180 to be considered for inclusion in the notable trees schedule. Some trees have scored less than this threshold, but were part of a group or avenue where protection of all trees was seen as important. Rules relating to notable trees are fairly simple and protect the tree from removal unless they are diseased or dead, and protect the roots from any damage that might affect the tree. Archaeology is defined in the Pouhere Taonga Heritage New Zealand Act of 2014 as any place in New Zealand, including any building or structure or part of a building or structure that was associated with human activity that occurred before 1900 or is the site of a wreck of any vessel where the wreck occurred before 1900 and provides or may provide through an investigation by archaeological methods evidence relating to the history of New Zealand and includes a site for which a declaration is made under section 43(1). Heritage New Zealand manages the damage, modification, or destruction of archaeology through its approval system. Although some district plans around the country do manage the effects of land use activities on archaeology, Napier has continued to defer all management of archaeology to Heritage New Zealand and has not included any rules relating to archaeology in its proposed district plan. This avoids a duplication of approval processes. Despite this, Council has included on its GIS of archaeological sites as at notification for information purposes and encourages applicants to speak with Heritage New Zealand. Council may also include advice notes or conditions on resource consents relating to the protection of archaeology. Sites of significance to Māori is included in the RMA definition of historic heritage. Their protection is a matter of national importance under Section 6 of the RMA. They may include places or features that are of historical, cultural, and or spiritual significance, and often carry deep levels of meaning and association for mana whenua. Some examples of sites of significance to Māori include historic pā sites, places where important events have occurred, burial grounds, or historical settlement areas. There are 27 sites of significance to Māori in the operative district plan. Napier City Council has been working with mana whenua since 2019 to carry out a review of these sites, taking into account all of the additional research material that is now available, particularly as a result of the Te Tiriti or Waitangi settlements. We are close to finalising the location and extent of these sites with mana whenua, as well as the narrative or reason why these sites are important. The next step after these sites have been finalised is to engage with landowners and to collectively devise a management approach to best protect the values of these sites, while enabling appropriate use and development. As this work was unable to be completed prior to the proposed district plan notification date, the new provisions will be introduced by way of a variation. We are targeting notification of this variation around mid-2024. Until this time, the provisions of the operative district plan will continue to apply. To support the rules of the district plan, it is not uncommon for councils to also provide guidance material that offers advice on how best to achieve the outcomes sought by the plan. The most common of these are design guides. Prior to notification of the proposed district plan, Council had an Art Deco design guide, which provided guidance on appropriate materials, alterations, or restoration of Art Deco era buildings, and an Art Deco signage guide. These two guides have been reviewed as released as a new combined Art Deco design guide with the proposed district plan. The design guide provides information on the various architectural styles that make up the Art Deco era buildings in Napier. It provides advice on how to repair, replace, and alter certain elements of the buildings in a way that is consistent with its heritage values, and provides detailed advice on how to create signage that is appropriate within the Napier City Heritage Precinct. There's lots of ways you can find out more about this topic. We have a number of topic summaries available on our website through www.sayitnapier.nz. You can also book a chat with one of the team through this website. We're also running some public open sessions where you can come and meet the team and ask us any questions you might have. You can find out more about when and where these are at www.sayitnapier.nz. We encourage you to make a submission on the proposed district plan. You can do this online at www.sayitnapier.nz, and submissions are open through to the 15th of December.